welcome to Performance Anxiety. Buzz Osborne joins us this week. I love speaking with him. He's straightforward, no BS. You never have to guess what he's thinking. That is liberating, but it can be a little intimidating as an interview. He's got a new King Buzzo album out featuring Trevor Dunn. But before we get to that, Buzz gives me a Melvins history lesson. He's always been an artist who forges his own path regardless of trends or popular opinions to create music that he wants to make. We touch on how he met Dale Crover through an Iron Maiden Loverboy cover band, how amazing technology can be, and the wonderful things he's gotten through music. Most importantly, has been his wife for 27 years. Pick up Gift of Sacrifice by King Buzzo featuring Trevor Dunn wherever you normally get your music. Follow Melvins on social media to find out about future tour plans. And check out @RealKingBuzzo on Instagram for some great photography. Follow us at Performance ANX, subscribe, rate, and review, and let's get started with King Buzzo.
This is King Buzzo from the Melvins. I got a new album coming out called Gift of Sacrifice, and you're listening to Performance Anxiety.
The first thing I want to do is thank you so much for this opportunity, man. This is really cool. I never imagined I'd be speaking with King Buzzo on my podcast.
Really? How long have you been doing the podcast?
This is about close to 2 years.
Wow.
The first thing I want to find out about is a little bit more about how you got into music in general. I mean, when did you start playing music? Was guitar your first instrument, or was there something else that got you into it?
No, guitar was my first instrument. I think when I was in sixth grade, we played, we had like a band, and then I played trumpet, but I don't even remember.
My daughter plays trumpet.
Yeah, in hindsight, it was kind of a waste of time. It was in junior high school, and I just didn't really care about it, you know?
Yeah.
So that was it.
Okay.
Other than that, I didn't play. And then I started playing guitar near the end of high school.
Oh, okay.
I didn't play when I was younger. Like Dale, drummer in the Melvins, has played guitar since before he played drums. So since he was, before he was 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you were
not me. His name is Steven. Steven in the Melvins, a bass player. He's been playing bass since he was like 11. You know. Oh,
geez. So you weren't one of those guys who was walking around high school, strumming away, showing everybody showing off to everybody.
Not really. I played a little bit in high school.
Okay.
There was a acoustic guitar class you could take, but it was a waste of time. With a really grumpy teacher who I don't know what his problem was. It's like what I would imagine taking a guitar class from Ted Kaczynski would be like.
Oh, gee. That's rough. Oh, Jesus. So
yeah, I didn't. But despite that was when I was in 10th grade, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't get an electric guitar until I was nearly out of high school. So.
And the Melvins, you kind of
crap guitar.
Oh yeah. But now you started the Melvins like right out of high school, right?
Yeah.
So
right away.
So they were your first band, then, I guess, right?
Yeah, pretty much an only band. In hindsight, it seemed like it was a long time between the time I started playing and the time we were actually playing shows and stuff, but it really wasn't that long.
Oh, really? How
less than a couple years.
Oh, okay. And what were you listening to back then? What were your influences?
Oh my God! I started listening to rock music when I was about 12.
Okay.
And they ran the gambit because I didn't have any older siblings who were into cool music, or I didn't have any older siblings, and I didn't have any cool friends whose older brothers or sisters would play the music. I didn't know anybody, I didn't really have 7th, 8th, 9th grade. I didn't really have too many people I hung out with, a little, but not really what I would consider friends.
Okay.
Not anymore. And then 9th or 10th grade, around 10th grade, I started hanging out with Mike Dillard, who ended up being the drummer in the Melvins.
Right.
And me and him are still friends. And we now do records. He was the original drummer.
Yeah.
We do records called Melvins 1983, which is him playing drums and Dale playing bass. So that's as close as we'll get to that. So he was out of the band by 84.
Okay.
And then we had Dale. So Dale's really been in the band almost the entire time.
Okay, so and then you started off with, was it Matt Lukin playing bass or drums, like you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was not going to, I was kind of done with him before I was even out of high school.
Oh, really? Okay.
But there wasn't a lot of options. I came from a rural America town, and I'm not a good, thinking back about the whole thing, it wasn't a good fit for me. I would have been much better off in a much bigger school, with way more people. This was a small school with maybe not even 100 kids in my class. And these were kids who had been going to school together since they were in kindergarten, whose parents had went to school together. And it was not and I came there when I was in about 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
And, from a much smaller town up in the mountains near Mount Rainier, Washington.
Oh, wow.
And of even less people. I think the town where I was born had about 900 people in it.
Oh, geez.
And where I ended up was that place had less than 2,000 people in it. So
wow.
I moved to San Francisco. I never lived in a big city.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah. You were just listening to stuff on the radio at that point, I guess.
The radio was crap. If you wanted to hear the AM pop type stuff from the mid 70s, then it was perfect for you, But I could sometimes pick up the stations from Seattle. So I heard a little bit of that stuff, and that excited me into liking stuff like Ted Nugent and Aerosmith and Kiss and Black Sabbath and things like that, which I liked all that stuff. And then when I was about 12, I liked rock music, and I realized that, they had these magazines like Cream Magazine and I don't remember, Hit Parader, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the magazines were pictures of all kinds of bands by 77 or so,
Yeah.
I was 12 or 13 in 1977.
Okay.
And in those magazines, they had pictures of all these other bands that I didn't know anything about, like David Bowie and eventually the Sex Pistols and Clash, and I'd see all these pictures, and then in the back of the magazines, they would have these, because where I lived, you couldn't even buy a record. Nothing.
Oh, wow.
No record stores where I lived. There was no anything.
Oh, geez.
I think there was a town in Aberdeen, you could buy records there, but that was over 10 miles away from where I lived, and I wasn't getting a lot of options when I was 12 to have either my parents drive me there, or I could have walked, I suppose.
Oh,
or taken a bus, taken half a day to get there. And then the few times that I ever went in there when I was a kid, the 2 or 3 times I went in there, they kept accusing me of stealing things. So I never went in.
Oh, jeez.
But it was, they had some stuff that might have been interesting, but they were not very helpful and super kind of mean-spirited. And so anyway, I would buy these. I noticed that you could buy these records in the back of the magazine. And so what I would do is I would save up my money, because I always worked. I always had some kind of job doing some kind of something, whether it was mowing lawns or whatever it was, because I always wanted money. My family wasn't by no means rich enough to sit there and buy me all kinds of stuff like that. So I would give my mom money, and she would write me a check.
Oh,
and
wow.
I would send it, And then weeks and weeks later, records would arrive. And that's how I got into Bowie and all these other people like that. And then from Bowie, I found out that he was interested in this guy named Iggy Pop, and so were the Sex Pistols. And so then I found out about the Stooges, all that stuff on my own, all in the 70s.
Oh, man.
And then it just went from there, this punk bands. And I found out about all that stuff without ever knowing anyone who liked any of that stuff.
That's amazing. And, the great thing about that is you saying, that was back at a time where you would find out about a band or an artist and you'd have to send away for it and wait for it. And so you've got that anticipation building, and you're already invested into that music before you've even heard it.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. And people don't really have any idea. When you ordered something in the 70s, the only game in town for delivery was the United States Post Office.
Yeah, exactly.
And their delivery time was, no matter where you sent anything for, was 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep. And you had to wait for that check to clear.
It would even say it on the when they would do their advertisements on TV. You could see an advertisement, oh wait, buy this, it'll be 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, the check has to clear. Okay, but the post office, it's like if I ordered something from Seattle, it would take a minimum of 6 weeks for it to get there.
Yeah.
Minimum.
That's
you could walk Seattle and back in less time than that. And when you think about it, the delivery, the way that they deliver packages is no different than they do now.
No.
They just had us over a barrel.
Yeah.
And so they screwed everybody for years. This is why, anytime there's a monopoly, especially a government-run monopoly, the public gets screwed.
Oh, absolutely.
Massively screwed. And so now, amazingly, with the advent of UPS and FedEx and those kinds of things, the post office is now able to do all those things it could never figure out how to do before.
Oh, I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you're right. I mean, kids today, I know my kids, especially, I've got 3 teenagers. They don't appreciate having to wait for that stuff and letting that anticipation build because you can download everything instantly.
Honestly, I didn't appreciate it either.
Yeah.
I buy stuff now. I can buy stuff now with a credit card.
Yeah.
And the delivery is there sometimes before the end of the day.
It's crazy.
And so I think that, that's really worrying about what the customer thinks. That's getting it there for the customer, who in every transaction is always the most important person in the transaction.
Exactly.
But the post office never saw it that way.
No.
They thought you were just merely just a pain in their ass.
Yeah.
That's it. So, where I first lived, they didn't even deliver mail to your house. You had to go into town and pick it up at the post office.
Jeez.
It's a total pain in the ass. People just, I'm not a good old days type of guy. I'm not.
Right.
And I'm really glad that things are a lot better now, a lot different. Life is better in every way now.
Yeah.
Way better than it ever was.
Oh, yeah.
The exchange of the information is unbelievable now. I can't imagine how great it would have been for me to find out about a band and then see him playing instantaneously on YouTube the way you can now.
Yeah.
What's this band Blue Cheer? I want to see what that looks like and what that sound. There it is. What's this Captain Beefheart I've heard about? Well, there it is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful, and I don't see a bad side to any of it. I think it's a great thing. The exchange of information is such an amazing tool, and we live in such an unbelievably tremendous and fun time that it's almost beyond comprehension.
It is. It's incredible. Now, the one thing that I've had this conversation with a lot of people on the show and off the show, and the one thing that keeps coming back is the availability of everything is amazing, and it's incredible to be able, like you said, to be able to research a band. Oh, who are these guys? Let me look them up immediately.
Boom.
But the one thing that a lot of people have mentioned is that with the availability of things like Spotify and YouTube, there isn't the investment in the music. Like if I spent $12 on a record or a CD, I'm going to spend time listening to it over and over again. Now you don't really have to do that. Do you think that's a concern for music in general, or do you think that maybe doesn't matter so much?
Well, it matters monetarily to bands, but see, the thing with that kind of thing, I mean, maybe you would spend more time listening to it, but I had plenty of records that I bought that I didn't like in the least, or received as gifts as a kid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered how long Styx, The Grand Illusion would have sat there. I was never going to, that I received as a, Christmas present from an aunt or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was not going to like it, or in high school getting it, from someone, Foreigner Double Vision album. It could, sit there forever. It's not going to appeal to me.
That's a good point. That's okay. That's a very fair point.
So, I mean, there's a few records, quite a few actually, maybe that have grown on me, but that continued to happen even later. There'll be something about it.
Okay.
when I could easily buy it, and then I didn't like it right away, and then eventually, you know what, I really like this. I've had that happen with movies too.
Oh yeah, movies, definitely had that with movies.
Art, books. You know, I really didn't like that book, and I realized it's the third time I've read it. You know?
Right.
Something appealed to me about it. I'm not sure. You know.
Okay, that is a good point. Yeah, there's whether you buy it or not, or you're listening to it on YouTube, if there's something that might a little hook that'll grab you, even if it's not obvious in the first place.
Yeah, sometimes stuff just clicks.
Yeah.
Boom. Like you said, it'll grab you, or you just. I've had it happen when all of a sudden I had a much bigger appreciation of something.
Yeah.
Or I never gave it that much of a chance to begin with. But people try to look for this thing like it was better in the old days, and I just disagree. I just don't. You know, I lived through the old days.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was better. And like people talk about, well, bands don't get paid now by the record labels. I'm like, well, when did they get paid by the record labels?
Yeah, I just had that talk recently with somebody.
It's like, you know, who were these check writing angels back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when bands were selling records that were just happily partying with their money and giving them. I know indie labels who shall go nameless. Who sold hundreds of thousands of records all through the 80s and never paid the band's a nickel.
Yeah,
Nothing.
look at bands like Creedence Clearwater Revival. I mean, they didn't get anything, and they sold millions.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you know, on a major label, it's one thing. On an indie record label, it's, you know, per dollar invested, it's a much bigger ripoff if they don't pay you.
Yeah. That's okay. That's good. That's a good point too.
I've never understood why people complain about the ripoff of a major label when there's indie labels to bitch about. You know? They're by and large the biggest ripoff of them all. And a lot of times they think that they have, since they're not corporate, they think that they have some kind of moral edge on everyone else. And it's like, no, actually, you're the least moral of anyone I've ever dealt with.
Oh man. Oh.
You know. And usually if you find some hipster label with a bunch of, you know, hipster punk rock type people, if you start talking about stuff like money, then they think you're not cool.
Yeah.
And you're just being some drag. And so they really don't care about not paying you, you know?
Yeah.
I can't believe that you would do that with some ethics clause in there. And I just want to go, look, you know, you owe us money and you should pay us the money. And I don't really care what you think about that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that works. But by and large, unless you're already hooked up with good people, you'll never get a nickel. Nothing.
That's awful. So it really doesn't matter who you sign with.
You know, the contracts are generally to keep you out of court.
Right.
Unless you have something for them to win or have a bunch of money, there's really suing them is not going to do you any good. They'll just go bankrupt. But whereas like when we were on Atlantic Records, you have a big contract with a company like that because they have something to lose.
Okay.
In a court battle. So they will abide by the contract. They'll go right down every step of the way and give you everything that you are owed. And they'll do it. They'll abide by every single word in it. The indie label, you can sign any contract you want. You know.
Yeah.
You know, F. Lee Bailey as your attorney. It's not going to make any difference. Because they're just not going to pay you. You know. So you find labels. That's what I've always found. Labels like Boner Records, who we did records with in the late '80s into the early '90s.
Yeah.
That paid us. Tom Flynn has paid us everything we were owed every 6 months for that entire time.
That's fantastic.
Once I find something like that, why would I go and take the records away from him or I could have easily done that after this much time. But I think, no, he's treated us right. I'm going to leave it. And Ipecac Records, we've been on Ipecac for more than 20 years.
Yeah, they put 99, I think.
Everything we're owed every 6 months.
That's amazing.
Why would I look for something else?
That's awesome. And I think that's part of the beauty of having an artist-run label. You know, they know. I've been in other situations with hipster artist-run labels where they've never paid us anything. Oh, geez.
So you know, it's or they pay you once and then you never see another dime out of them, or you never see anything. And I always laugh when people go, "Well, they never send us statements." I go, "I can make a statement for you that says anything."
Yeah.
you want is a check.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Fuck your statement.
Yeah,
Right?
yes, exactly.
You know, I did all this work and sold all these records for you, and you don't want to come through on your end, or you think I'm being lame for suggesting it. You know, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as it is right now for indie bands, or, you know, underground bands, not unlike us, if you want to make something like a 7-inch or a 10-inch, it's very expensive to do that. It's very expensive. And so you really have to be careful with your money. I think it's bands have to really watch out with those sorts of things. And I think eventually it'll come back around to where they'll realize that things like CDs really are a better deal and they sound really good.
Yeah.
And people will realize that, and the vinyl will probably go the way of the pet rock at some point.
Again. Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing. It's kind of pricing itself out of the market right now. And I think most people, Tom Hazelmeyer, who we do a lot of limited edition stuff like that with, said that, I can't remember how he found this, but he found something that showed that less than 40% of all vinyl that gets bought even gets listened to.
Yeah, but it tends to become a collector's item, you know.
Which is fine. I mean, I collect all kinds of stuff. I understand it. And the other thing is there's some amount of people who will buy vinyl, so we'll make some vinyl. And when we do, we'll try to make it really cool and silkscreen covers. And I like the artwork on it and crazy vinyl colors and all sorts of things along those lines. But beyond that, it's immaterial to me because the most important thing really is the music.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll do it because there's a small market out there of people who will buy vinyl that we appreciate. And, you know, I will still do it until it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, if it's going to help you guys out and get the music out there to somebody, then why not? Now, I've got a question for you about the name Melvins. How did you guys decide on Melvins?
Oh, we wanted something that was kind of like the Ramones.
Okay.
That was it.
That's it?
Didn't sound like a punk band, didn't sound like a metal band. We wanted to play a combination of weird stuff along those lines and not have our name pigeonhole us. We also wanted to make sure our artwork for our record covers didn't pigeonhole us in one form or another, you know?
Okay.
And we wanted to make sure that we didn't belong to any club, whatever it was. We don't have any brother bands or people out there that are, you know, working the same, you know, like we're a pop punk band. Oh, great. You know, we're a band that sounds like, you know, something on Lookout Records from a long time ago. Oh, great. Who cares? I never wanted to be that.
Well, you managed to definitely avoid any pigeonholes, that's for sure, because your music is so varied. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about Dale for a second.
Yes.
I heard, and I believe this was in an interview that I heard trying to research for this show, that you found Dale in an Iron Maiden / Loverboy cover band?
Mostly Loverboy.
Mostly. Well,
I mean, there's nothing else going on. I was in Aberdeen. He lived in Aberdeen, and I'd seen him play in that band a few times, or twice.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, that guy's good. And what we were looking for at that point was a guy who could play heavy metal stuff.
Okay.
Because I always liked the way those drummers played. You know, I always liked the way heavy metal drummers played. I thought they were all good drummers. Mm-hmm. I was remain a huge fan of The Who. I wanted a Keith Moonish kind of guy who wasn't worried about breaking his drum heads.
Right.
A little regard for his equipment in general, and played the drums like it was like his very life depended on it.
Okay.
You know, I wanted something that was tribal and pounding, and somebody who could expand beyond that. But I always thought heavy metal drummers were really good, by and large. There's some hair metal drummers, obviously, weren't very good. But usually, even the cheesiest metal bands had good drummers.
Okay.
Usually. You know, so I wanted to take a guy like that and have him do what we were doing. Because we always wanted to incorporate stuff like that from our into what we were doing as well.
Okay.
Lots of heavy metal stuff and, you know, things along those lines. But then as well as that, you know, birthday party, you know, Captain Beefheart. We've always described ourselves as for decades that we're Captain Beefheart playing heavy metal.
Yeah. I actually, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
What,
I would say that makes sense. How would Captain Beefheart, if he was going to write a heavy metal song, what would he do? I think that's what we're trying to do.
I never put that together. That is perfect.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't get that, but that's okay.
Yeah. Hey,
lots of people don't understand how I've been able to make a living playing music at all.
Was the plan from the beginning to play something slower and heavier than Maiden and Loverboy anyway? Well,
I never liked Loverboy, but I certainly liked Maiden, some of it.
Yeah.
But there were lots of bands playing stuff along those lines that we liked, like Flipper and Black Sabbath and Black Flag, and lots of bands had slower songs. We were big fans of Damaged on the Damaged album by Black Flag.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And just lots of Pink Floyd stuff was slower, and we didn't think we were inventing anything new. If anything, we were just expanding on what was already there. And there was lots of bands that were doing, hardcore really fast. We liked that too, but it had gotten really stale for me by about 1985, and so I kind of walked away from it. Unless the bands were really exceptionally good,
Yeah.
And that was few and far between. 50th generation straight edge bands weren't something I was interested in by about 84, 85.
Right.
I couldn't care less. I mostly didn't like their message. I thought their bands were crap. I didn't have any of that, holier than thou posturing. I wanted to, at that time, get hammered and run around chasing chicks and playing music that was had no redeeming social value whatsoever.
Well, congratulations, man.
Yeah, and we wanted to be heavy metal with throbbing gristle thrown in there.
Yeah.
That's it. And the Swans, that was another band we really liked.
Oh, I love Swans.
Certainly playing lots of slow stuff. And, we're a lot more avant-garde or Ava Gardner than people think.
Yeah, I mean, I was just checking out Colossus of Destiny. I mean, that's crazy. And that's it's 2 tracks. One's 59 minutes and 23 seconds and the other's 5 seconds.
I don't know. I haven't checked. I think we were trying to do something that you had to back it up to hear it at the beginning, but I don't know if it ever worked.
Oh, God, I remember.
Colossus of Destiny, people were like, oh, that's just some noise record. It's like, actually, it's not really. It's got a meter and a flow to it, and it goes all over the place, and it's not just noise record. I mean, if you listen to, there's lots of other records that are much noisier than that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is people, I don't know. You can't please anybody.
No.
I quit worrying about that kind of stuff a long time ago and just started concentrating on doing what I thought was good and figuring that if I thought it was good, there'll be other people who'll think it's good.
Right.
That's it.
Now, you guys
not trying to be perverse. I'm not being perverse. If I was being perverse, I'd be making stuff that even I didn't like.
Yeah. Well, no, and
that's not what I'm doing.
No, and that's one of the things that I've kind of discovered is that you know what you like. You're not afraid to do it or to say it, and that's, if you don't like it, too bad.
Yeah, my ideas about stuff like that can change too, but I'll see online forums about the band and stuff like that, and they're just wrong about everything. Yeah. About our motivations, about what we think, about what kind of people we are. It's odd to me that people, especially when they think weird stuff or things like, that we're jealous of the grunge people who made millions of dollars. It's like, what kind of a person do you think I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm jealous of anything like that. I'm not that kind of a guy. I keep my head down and keep working.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're doing or not? You don't like it? Well, there's nothing I can do about that. I've dealt with that my whole life. People who don't like what I'm doing. I'm not making the music for them, Yeah, exactly. You got to make the music that you want to make. Yeah, that's it. And we've said millions of people won't like this.
And it's to do what a lot of these other bands have done. They've had to go through a lot of horrific stuff, or because of their success, they've had a lot of horrific things happen. And if that's the cost, that may not be worth it to a lot of people.
Well, I've had a fair amount of success and fair amount of publicity and fame as far as that's concerned. And I don't feel like I would go crazy if it happened to me. But I'm also not concerning myself with it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a professional musician who makes his living playing music and has no one underwriting what he's doing. And that has been the case literally for decades. I don't feel anything other than massive gratitude for that.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
I don't feel like I got dealt the wrong hand or I did the wrong thing. No, I did the exact right thing. Yeah. Music gave me everything in my life that's good. I met my wife as a result of music.
See?
We've been married for the better part of 27 years. That's by far the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life.
That's awesome.
I only got that because I played in a band that put me in a position where I would meet her eventually.
Yeah.
That's how it worked. So had I never played music, I never would have met her.
Man, and
she was not a fan of our band. She didn't really even know who we were at the time.
Oh, really?
No, not really. I think she was vaguely aware of us, but she wasn't a fan.
Wow.
Because we're an underground weird band. We're not like, it's not like we're MTV. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, never happened. That almost never happened. We weren't famous like that. We were famous to underground people. We were famous in that world.
Yeah.
Not in the. It's not like she would have even known who we were, but she was into underground music too. It just didn't happen to cross our path. So that was attractive to me as well. So I never felt like she was only interested in me because of that kind of music. But had I not been involved in music, I met her through mutual friends. That never would have happened. So that's not lost on me.
That's and she's an artist herself.
Yeah, graphic design. We've worked together for the better part of 30 years.
Congratulations on almost 27 years too. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a long time. It's a long time to do anything. Let alone, how many people we've known in that amount of time have been married and divorced and married again and divorced and in the same amount of time that we've been married. We've only ever been married once.
That's fantastic. My wife and I were going to be, we're 19 years married, 20 years together this year. So, and same thing, a lot of people we know gone through multiple marriages, and it's
and so I don't take that lightly either. It's like I said, it's not lost on me the importance of that. Let's say I picked up the guitar and all I got out of it was my relationship with my wife. That's way more than I could have ever hoped for.
That's so wonderful to hear. I love hearing that.
That's way more than I could have ever hoped for. I win.
Yeah, exactly.
Along those lines is simply extra.
Yep.
And as a result of that extra, I am willing to work my ass off and play all the time live and make records all the time and do all kinds of crazy stuff because I appreciate and want to do those things out of appreciation for the people who have put me in a position to make that possible.
And see, I love hearing this stuff. This is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that I love hearing. Now, for either Melvins or the King Buzzo stuff, do you have a process for it? I mean, you're putting stuff out regularly. I mean, it's amazing. Do you have
time? You mean like a process of work? You mean?
Yeah, like do you sit down to write something, or do you just noodle away while you're doing something else and it comes? Is there? I know most people don't have a set process for doing it, but is there a way that it happens more often than not?
Well, I mean, pretty much every time I touch a guitar, I'm thinking in terms of songwriting.
Okay.
The guitar itself, I've never had lessons. I don't know how to read music. I don't even know how to keep to count time. I do it my own way, weird way.
Okay.
Dale is very fortunate. I'm very fortunate that Dale can interpret my strange ideas. Kind of stuff works. Yeah. And I used to kind of concern myself about that because I felt like I was missing something by not knowing those things. But now I just couldn't care less. Yeah. I don't care to ever know any of those kinds of things. I do just fine. And so a lot of things that would be an exercise for me now in the last 10 years has been like figuring out another band's song, just figuring it out.
Okay.
And that's kind of practice for me.
Okay.
Like I'll figure out a really hard Led Zeppelin song or figure out a really hard Alice Cooper song. We've done that for years, that kind of thing. And
Okay.
figuring if we can play this stuff in a way that sounds pretty good, it'll only help us. That's it. And we do it for fun. We love to play. You put us in a room, we'll start playing. There's just nothing around it. But I'll do that at home for practice. Lots of stuff that I never would play. We would never see the light of day anywhere. Right. It was just for practice. And the other thing I'll do is I just start playing riffs in a wide variety of crazy tunings, some of which are on my own tunings.
Oh, wow.
And the last few years, I've really gotten into open E and open G tuning. And I think on their last album we did, the record before the last one, I don't believe there was a standard tuning song on it.
Oh, wow.
It was all in open tuning or a weird tuning of my own creation.
Oh, geez.
And I don't care about those kinds of, people getting all weird about, not too many people get weird about it. But when they do, I just think, why? These are only tools that will help you be creative. They're not going to hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. I love open tuning.
Lighten up,
Yeah. When you go in to record for either Melvins or your solo stuff, is the material worked out beforehand? Do you do much experimenting or writing in the studio?
Not much writing in the studio. We have written and recorded probably, the better part of 500 songs. Yeah. So it's after a while, you really start to look for ways you haven't done things before.
Yeah.
And so we're more likely now to record stuff when we just about have it down, as opposed to flogging the life out of it for months and months on end before we record it.
Oh, okay.
I think it gives it the songs, not always, but sometimes it'll give it a little bit of a life that it doesn't have after you've beaten it into the ground.
Yeah.
With massive rehearsal. If you have something that a musician, a person is barely able to do it, and they're a really good player, they're going to play that's a performance you're not going to get after 2 weeks of really hardcore rehearsal.
Right.
And so there's especially in the last 10 years, we've adapted that into our recording style a lot more than we ever would have.
Okay.
So it's like, here's a song, I have this all worked out, I'll show it to you guys. They're all extremely good players. That's one thing I've been very happy about, is that all except for our very first bass player, everyone else I've played with have been exceptionally talented when it came to playing. And the guys I'm playing with now, Steven and Dale, I would say arguably they're as good as anybody on the planet. I completely feel honored. It's an honor and a privilege to play with those guys. And so anything I bring in, if we run through it 4 or 5 times and they've got it down pretty good, sometimes we'll just track it.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Oh, cool.
Put a fill here, do that, track it. That sounds great. And no one's ever noticed that that's what happened on some, like you couldn't go through the record to pick out, which ones did you rehearse and which ones didn't you rehearse?
Right.
You can't tell.
No.
You'd never be able to,
Yeah.
Because they all sound good, because that's where these guys are at musically.
Okay.
And I think that's what people like Miles Davis picked up on, especially during his electric era, was that they might be able to play this better if we rehearsed it a bunch, but it's not going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so I
point.
think we're much more likely these days to embrace that kind of attitude than we ever would have before. We'd have been too afraid to do that. Like it wouldn't work. And then we realized, no, this will work. These guys are good.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
The professionals.
Yeah. You trust their instincts. You trust their judgment. You trust the flow of the music. And you play something for somebody and they get really excited about it. And they're into it. That's not going to be like that in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be like that now. And I want to record that moment. Not always, but sometimes I want to record that moment and savor it. And realize that, we really only played this song 3 or 4 times. And that's how it is on the record.
Yeah.
we'll go back and do some guitar overdubs and stuff like that. But the basic drums and sometimes the basics of the song are done in that way. Lots of times the drums, not always, but lots more now than we ever would have. We would never have considered that back a long time ago because we would have had studio was really expensive, and now we have our own studio, and we needed to have our shit wired before we ever got through the door. So.
Oh yeah, and now I do have a question about the solo stuff that you're doing. I mean, you've been a Melvin, the Melvin since the early '80s. So almost 30 years. 83. God. But you've just started doing solo work. Is there a reason you're just now getting into doing some solo acoustic albums?
Well, I did my first solo acoustic record in 2014.
Right.
Which is This Machine Kills Artists. And so that one, I decided I wanted to do it. I kind of stuck my toe in the water a little bit here and there, and then when I got a good reception from that, it seemed like it would work. Then I recorded the whole album. It was just me and an acoustic guitar, and then did a whole world tour with just me and an acoustic guitar.
That's awesome.
So then that was great, and then knew I could do it. I think I did 100 shows on acoustic that year.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah, and so then when this came up, I knew I wanted to do something different on this album, and we did a lot of work between 2014 and now, and it was time to do it. So I knew I wanted to be different. So originally my plan was, and how most of it was recorded more than a year ago, was to have acoustic guitar with modular synth and vocals. That's what my original plan was.
Okay.
And so I wanted it to be like Throbbing Gristle meets acoustic guitar
Okay.
That kind of thing, sort of. Those kind of elements mixed in there. I had never heard anybody do that. And then about over a year ago, I was talking to Trevor Dunn, who I play with also sometimes in Phantomos.
Yes.
And I said, I want to do this acoustic thing again. We should do a tour together. And if we're going to do a tour together, we should do like a tour EP where we play together. And maybe on the shows, you can play first, and then maybe we could play some songs together at some point during the show or something like that. It might be fun. He was like, that sounds great. So I had my acoustic record done, or pretty much recorded most of it. And then I said, come on out. This would have been in February or March of last year.
Okay.
And he came out. He was here for 2 days. We figured we'd get enough for this EP. And I go, well, try playing on one of these songs. We'll put it on the EP. Maybe we'll just have this version have bass on it. And the only instruction I told him was to overplay.
Okay.
Make sure you overplay. I really like your bowing, and I really like the plucking. So do both of that, but just overplay, knowing that if I gave him that much creative freedom, he wasn't really going to overplay,
Right.
But he's going to really give it all he's got. And so we did a song. And I was like, oh, my God. As soon as I heard it with my song, it was already done. I was like, that sounds so good. And so he ended up playing on almost the whole record.
Oh, wow.
Which is why it's a King Buzzo with Trevor Dunn record and not a King Buzzo and Trevor Dunn record, because we didn't really write anything together.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question is, did he have any input in the writing process?
I gave him, he did a couple of instrumental things that are on there. That wouldn't have been, and then there's some songs on the EP that aren't on the album that might have been, so.
Okay.
But to call it a Trevor Dunn and King Buzzo record, it just isn't true. We might do one of those in the future, but that would be more, more of a collaboration.
Okay.
And less of him coming in and recording his parts over what was already done.
Okay. Some of the songs on Gift of Sacrifice are longer than the songs on This Machine Kills Artists. Was that conscious to just kind of stretch things out a little bit, or was it just the way the writing went?
Yeah, it was conscious. Okay. I wanted to get more into longer songs a little bit. Not all of them are longer, but and there's a lot more production on this record.
Yeah.
A lot more. As far as weirder, way more. There's no modular synth. The first one, there's all kinds of wacky modular synth stuff, as well as doubled up guitars and bass and and vocals, all kinds of vocals. And we just really worked on this in a much different attitude. The other record is a lot more straight ahead.
Okay.
Which I think worked really good. I'm really happy with that record. I wouldn't change a thing.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but this one is more of a production, I guess. Yeah. But what's funny was the first one is people go, it just sounds like the Melvins with acoustic guitar. I go, what the fuck would it sound like?
Yeah. Exactly.
And Bob Dylan sounds like Bob Dylan on acoustic guitar. Weird.
No shit. That's crazy how that works out.
I know. I can't believe it. I believe that Joan Baez sounds like Joan Baez when she plays acoustic guitar. So, strange as it sounds.
Now, so you mentioned that the modular synth, is that what's going on at the end of Delayed Clarity?
It's a bunch of stuff like that. We also do me and Toshi Kasai, who recorded it, who records all of our stuff. Me and him are really good at making crazy sounds out of almost nothing. Well, we've been doing that for a long time.
Well, I've noticed that there's a bunch of songs that end with something really weird going on. I love it. That's awesome.
Yep, that's part of the plan, to take you out of the realm. Like my wife, when I played her the whole album, which is we mastered this thing December 19th.
Okay.
And so I've been living with it since then. Since before that, when I'm listening to the mixes of it. Mm-hmm. But now is when I can enjoy the record. And so when right up until about the time it comes out, and then I've moved on. It's about 5 or 6 months I've lived with the record before anybody has ever heard it.
Yeah.
Hardly, and then I move on. Well, I played the whole thing for my wife, obviously a bunch of times, because I always care what she thinks. And she says, like, you and Trevor have created something I haven't ever heard before.
Yeah,
the thing is different than anything I've ever heard before. Which is I was happy she said that, because she's not a good liar.
Oh, good. that's a good quality.
I believe.
Well, I was listening to it, and to me, Housing, Luxury, and Energy is just a beast of a song. I'm not blowing smoke when I'm seriously telling you that it is one of the best songs I've heard in years.
Oh, thank you.
I absolutely love that song. I've been playing it over and over and over again.
Yeah. I like that name too.
Yeah, exactly. And what was the other? Well, Delayed Clarity is also another favorite of mine.
Delayed Clarity, I think I wrote both of those. Both those I wrote in my living room on the same guitar. So.
Oh, wow.
Kind of similar a little bit, but not tremendously. Yeah.
Are these the songs? Are these examples of you coming up with your own weird tunings, or are these just standard open tunings? I can't
tunings those are in. Yeah.
How are you going to play it live though? Is it?
No, I can figure it out.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know it's got to be one of the ones I use.
So you're keeping track from somehow.
I figured out, without too much trouble. Probably barely even have to play it, and I'll know it. Recorded all that stuff over a year ago.
Yeah,
and so I've recorded a hell of a lot since then, and done a ton of touring.
Yeah. Oh.
So I'm not sitting there playing those riffs over and over.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things. I mean, you're constantly working. You are constantly writing music. You're a machine with it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the deal I made.
Yeah, it's amazing to me.
I think that's what people should do. I mean, if I was a huge band like Tool or any of these bands, I would do 60 to 100 shows a year, even if I didn't have a record out.
That would be well. It's how many shows do you do per year now? Between
80 to 120 shows a year, depending. Wow. Sometimes a few less, but generally it's about 80 to 120.
Well, how did the whole King Buzzo persona come about?
The guys in Boner, when I went on Boner in the 80s, the people that worked there gave me that nickname because I was so opinionated. That's it.
That's it, huh?
That was it.
Oh man, that's awesome. Did your gear change a lot throughout the years? Are you still do you run through different? Do you try a whole lot of different stuff, or because I know your music can be pretty experimental? Do you experiment a lot with different guitars, amps, pedals?
Oh yeah, I've always changed stuff. I'm a big believer in new equipment. I'm not a vintage guitar guy.
Oh, okay.
I think that, people like guitar is 70 years old, so it has a better sound to it. Really? Well, you're still a shitty guitar player. It doesn't matter what guitar you play. You can think that your crap sounds a lot better because you're playing a 1950s Les Paul, but I disagree.
Well, do you have a favorite piece of gear for doing the King Buzzo shows?
Well, what I recorded most of the stuff with was these Bluefield guitars that I bought live for playing live. They're just new.
Okay.
And I wanted ones that had an internal pickup so I could just plug them in.
Ah, yeah.
I didn't want to hook up some, jerry-rigged setup. I wanted it to be able to handle me walking around because I'm not sitting down to play. I'm standing up to play acoustic guitar.
Right.
I can't really sit down and play. I'm not good at it. Even in the studio, I stand up when I play.
Okay.
I play better. I don't know why. And then, but those are what I play live. So some of that's on this new record. The first record, I didn't have those guitars yet. So I played a Buck Owens American and I played a Gibson that Toshi had. Gibson acoustic Toshi had. But both these records, the acoustic guitars are not ran through amplifiers. Neither is the bass. It's all acoustically mic'd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but live I run through an amp. But there's no amps on either one of these records either. On the new one, no amp for the bass, no amp for the guitar, the acoustics. And on the first one, there's no. It's just weird miking techniques is all it is.
Was that on purpose, just to get the like that deep, heavy sound from the guitar?
Well, or just we acoustic guitar, and maybe I should double it up, or I'll double up a couple parts here and there. That's about it, really. It's just through I'd stand in front of a wide array of microphones, and as long as they weren't out of phase, and sometimes even if they were, depending on what it sounded like, we would go with it. We did all kinds of things. Like in the first one especially, we did some stuff like play as close to put another guitar on a stand right up by in front of you playing, and then put a microphone inside the other guitar.
Oh, wow.
And so then you put the guitar in the same tuning at your end and then play as close to it as you can and use the sound out of the inside of the guitar you're playing into, That is awesome. That's the kind of shit I love. I love hearing that. Tons of that. So much of that stuff, I don't even remember all of it,
Well, the good thing is you don't have to, really, after it's done.
Well, it's funny. We've always done that kind of stuff on records. I rarely use exactly my same live setup that I do on records. I mean, I view live and records as completely polarly opposite things. And I really don't believe that if someone's listening to one of our albums at home through a stereo, that they think that they're seeing a live show. I don't believe that.
Right. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
We approach the records not unlike the way you would approach making a movie.
Okay.
And it's not supposed to be live. I mean, we can play it live, but a lot of times we take a lot of liberties with our stuff live. And it have to sound like the way it sounds on the record. Never worried about that. I learned that lesson really vividly when I was always been a huge Who fan. And when I heard Live at Leeds, most of those songs are so radically different than what they are on the record that I realized, you don't have to do that. It's still really good.
No, and that's one of the things I always liked about going to live shows is when the band plays something a little differently from the record anyway. That's kind of the point of going to a live show.
It never bothers me. Never.
No, I love it.
I don't care what they do. I like bands that take liberties. If they want to do medleys, if they want to do cover songs, it's all fun.
Yeah.
Part of the juice of playing live. And in the studio, I have a wide variety of guitars from, mostly new. I still have my first Les Paul, but that doesn't make it on record too often.
Right.
And that's been funny. I've talked about this before in interviews where people will go, I don't really like it because now I use live. I'll use these things called from the Electrical Guitar Company. Either they're Travis Beans or they're just regular ones, and they're aluminum, and some of them are aluminum and wood hybrid. And people go, I don't like the way those sound. It's like, okay, you're out of your mind. You think I liked your Les Paul a lot better. It's like, okay, first off, you think I've never A-B'd these?
Right. Yeah.
Ever? Are you drunk? And they'll go, well, like the sound on Stoner Witch with the Les Paul sounds a lot better. I go, well, what song? Like Revolve. I go, Revolve is actually, I borrowed a Jackson from the engineer, and the overdub is with a Mustang, and the solo is played on a Fender Stratocaster.
Oh man!
You don't even know what you're hearing. It's so absurd.
Yeah.
Think about that's like, what are you talking about? I mean, I love these the new Dan Electros. I think they're awesome guitars, brand new. And I had a Silvertone. The Dan Electros is from the 60s, but the Dan Electro's way better. The new Dan Electro plays better, sounds better, everything.
Oh, cool.
I'm not a vintage guy. I just don't care about that. I think, if you take somebody like Hendrix or any good guitar player or Pete Townsend, they're going to sound good on any guitar you give them.
That's true. That is very true.
You can have the greatest vintage guitar of all time and the greatest vintage amp of all time. I can play through that, and you give Hendrix the brand new amp with a brand new guitar, he's still going to blow me out of the water.
Yeah, and you hand all that to me, and I'm still going to sound like I'm a monkey banging on something.
Right. That's it. We are firmly convinced that you could put us in the studio with any kind of equipment. Drums, guitars, basses, amps, we could make it work.
I firmly believe you too.
Absolutely. That stuff doesn't intimidate us. I'm not a slave to my gear.
That's awesome. That's awesome because you hear that a lot. Is it guys are freaking out because something in their rig broke and it's a vintage piece of equipment and now they think they're screwed. So.
Well, don't take vintage stuff on the road.
Exactly.
New equipment and use that on the road. And preferably, if you can, especially with stomp boxes, find stuff that you can buy just about anywhere. Now I've done a bunch of my own stomp boxes. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did a distortion box, the pessimizer, and a compressor called the compressimizer. And I'm going to do another one pretty soon, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Oh, is that through like a Buzz series?
Hillbish Design.
Okay.
I also use his preamps, which are a takeoffs of Sun Beta lead preamps.
Oh, cool,
from the 70s. I think they're better. They're more hot. They sound more hot rodded.
Oh, awesome! That is awesome.
I love it. So I haven't for a long time. I don't use tube amps. I haven't for decades, but I have some tube amps that we use in the studio. But tube amps on the road are a big pain in the ass.
Yeah, and
they don't work and things happen to them. And I need gear that can take a beating.
yeah, exactly.
I play the shit out of my gear. I need gear that will work. I've tried a massive wide variety of guitar cabinets, speaker setups, amplifiers, and I've hit on this, and I feel really comfortable knowing that I love my guitar sound and no one else in the world is using this exact same setup. Nobody. I'm very happy about that.
Okay. Well,
and it's not because of somebody else,
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know you had plans to tour, and, everybody's plans to tour have really kind of gone down the toilet lately.
Yeah.
Are you planning on doing any live streams or touring later in the year?
Everybody's trying to tour later in the year. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
We'll see what happens if they come up with a miracle cure,
Yeah.
And then if I cancel it, it'll only be by degree. It'll be like, I'll cancel the first few weeks, and then if it becomes obvious that I have to cancel the next few weeks, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. So how can people find out about that?
I'll announce it.
Is there a social media presence where people can look for you?
Yeah, you can look at the Melvins, or you can look at, it's all out there. My tour dates they're not hiding.
Right.
They've been on sale since January.
And people who want to see the show are going to know how to find you anyway. Yeah,
just like you do any other show.
Yep.
We're living through some strange times right now.
Yeah, we really are. And it's funny because I've seen so many people having to cancel shows and then doing live streams now.
Well, I don't know how exactly they're doing that, but I'm not super excited about running right into a studio where everybody else is. That's not really socially isolating.
Yeah. Well, what I know a couple of people that
but me running over to a rehearsal studio with a bunch of our guys and our engineer, it seems counterproductive.
Yeah. And what I've seen a couple people do is put up a camera in like a home rehearsal space or something, and just one band member playing like a solo acoustic kind of a thing, things like that. So.
Well, I could do that, but we might do that at some point.
Okay.
But it'll sound crappy.
Yeah, because
I guess if it's on the internet, it's going to sound crappy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But man, I've kept you for over an hour, and I really do appreciate you spending so much time and talking with me. Where can people find the album? How can they purchase it when it comes out?
It's on Ipecac Records, so you can buy it anywhere that you normally buy records. It's distributed in the U.S. Hopefully by then, Amazon will be back to delivering music again.
Yeah.
We still sell a lot of hard copies of our stuff. I
still buy hard copies all the time. I've got like 4,000 CDs in the room below me, so it's.
Oh, I'm glad you like CDs. I love CDs.
I love them. I absolutely love them.
They sound unbelievable.
They do. I don't know why everybody gives them such a bad rap, because they're easy, they're portable.
Yeah, they're affordable and they sound great.
Yeah, and I understand the love of downloads, and I've got downloads, but I don't feel like I completely own it, because I was a photographer for years, so I kind of like seeing the artwork and having that in front of me to open up and read liner notes and stuff while I'm listening. So.
Yeah, I like that too. I'm an amateur photographer myself.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I have an Instagram account. You should check out Real King Buzzo.
Okay, I'll check it out right after we record.
People can check it out. It's just my photography. There's no selfies. I'm not selling anything on it. I am I've been taking pictures forever. And once the digital thing happened,
yeah,
I could never really afford film and all that and developing prior to that. But once the digital thing happened, my ability to take pictures and the amount of pictures I took just exploded.
Oh yeah,
people for a long time. You should do something. I just did it for my own enjoyment.
Yeah.
Now I have for probably coming up on a year, I've had an Instagram account finally where I've been showing off my photography and got a really, really good response from it. So
that's awesome. I didn't realize it. I'll have to check it out after we record.
King Buzzo.
Real King Buzzo. Awesome. And if
mine has an asterisk next to it, so you know it's me.
Oh, good.
And all it is pictures that I've taken. I'm behind the camera. I'm not in front of it. It's no pictures of me doing anything. It's just me taking pictures of other people or animals doing stuff.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I went to college for it for years, and then I did it professionally for a while. So,
I love photography. I've loved it it's one of my passions.
Oh man, I'm definitely checking out as soon as we wrap up here. And if for some reason you're bored and you want to check out my Instagram, because I've actually gotten back into shooting a lot of live music. Shot Failure, Woven Hand,
cool.
Fireball Ministry.
Yeah, I don't think I would be good at that.
Oh man, I would love for you to check mine out and let me know what you think.
My nature,
Yeah. Well,
that's what I do mostly.
I'll check you out. I would love it if you would check mine out too.
Absolutely.
It's at Mark X Shea. It's MarcXShea.
Okay, I'll check it out for sure.